Welcome back to the Corp. We have a very special guest on the Corp this week. It is Tie Domi, and we're going to be taping the intro live. You're here, you're sitting here. Usually we do the intro after and we talk like, well, that guy sucked. Because I would have said that once you left. I wouldn't say it to your face. So we haven't done the interview yet. What was your favorite part of the interview, Arod?
The LinkedIn.
Yes, the LinkedIn. So are you ready for this interview? This is a pre-interview.
I'm ready.
Okay.
I was born ready.
Okay, so one of our favorite sponsors is LinkedIn, and we always talk about getting new jobs. If you're an employer trying to find good candidates, 600 million people on LinkedIn. Have you used LinkedIn?
No.
Okay, because you are special and you played in the NHL for a really long time, but you know someone who's used LinkedIn.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, but I really don't.
You don't use computers? Are you not a computer guy?
I'm a texter.
Okay, you're a texter. Okay, you seem like big font. Do you have big font?
No.
Okay, all right. I had that one.
I don't like
font.
to advertise and people see it.
Yeah, I know, right?
Big head, not big font.
Yeah, big head. Yeah.
Big head. So, but check out LinkedIn. Tie Domi knows people. That's a hell of an endorsement by you. You know people who've used LinkedIn.
Yes, many.
Okay, so 600 million people on LinkedIn, and if you're an employer, you got to go find the best candidate. You don't want to be fishing in a shallow pool. You want to be out there in the ocean getting the best candidates, so go to LinkedIn right now. The first $50 is on them. Visit linkedin.com/thecorp. Again, that's linkedin.com/thecorp to get $50 off your first job post. Terms and conditions apply. Arod is hiring on LinkedIn. You have a job posting for an executive assistant. I'm Barstool. We are hiring on LinkedIn. Will you be applying for Arod's executive assistant on LinkedIn? No?
I'll protect him. I'll be his
okay,
I'll
so
be his
right.
bodyguard.
Actually, Ty would be great to have. I can't protect you like he can.
Yeah, I'm going to ask some naughty questions. That's why I have you in the middle, so I can run.
Right, perfect. All right, so LinkedIn, Arod will find a new executive assistant. It will not be Tie Domi, but he will be getting the job as head enforcer. Okay, let's get into the interview. Tie Domi, like I said, very excited to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks
we're
for
going to talk some business. We're also going to talk your hockey career. You played many, many years. You played for the Rangers. You played for the Jets. You played for the Leafs. You had 333 career fights. Let's start there. Did you land on that number specifically? Were you like, all right, I'm done after the 333?
No, actually, I didn't really realize it till it came to my attention after my career. So
right.
I didn't know there was people were keeping track of it, but obviously now there's no more fighting hardly, and I guess it's a record that won't be broken in hockey.
Interesting. You said hardly there. Oh, you say meaning in hockey, not in Tie Domi's life.
No, there's no fighting. Well, in business, obviously, you're always duking it out every day. That's never stops,
Do you have one moment, maybe best fight or the fight that you respected the guy the most, or best rivalry that you can think of?
Well, definitely the Bob Probert fight.
Right.
The first one at Madison Square Garden in '92. That was, that kind of put me on the map. But it took me a couple of years to get to him because he kept saying, "Get away from me, kid! Get away from me."
Now, how tall is he, and how tall are you?
He's 6'4", and I'm 5'10", 5'9.5".
And what made him such a great fighter?
I think he was a good player too, but he was big and he had a mean streak in him, and he knew how to fight, and he was a good fighter. And
before you go on the ice that day, do you kind of know this might be a good fight day because he's got a reputation like you?
Well, I've tried a few times before when we played each other, and he was like, "Get away, and kind of earn your stripes, kid."
Right.
And eventually, I think I just drove him too crazy in that game. He finally said, "Okay, let's go."
The pre-fight banter in hockey cracks me up.
Yeah.
Like you got, I'm sure you had many times. You're like, "Hey, you want to go? Hey, you want to go? All right, let's go." Like it's very civil, and then you fight.
Yeah, it's a little different. Some guys did it that way. I didn't really do it that way. I usually didn't let guys know what I was thinking or gonna do because I was too small. So, but majority of the time it was actually probably 99% of the time it was for my teammates and someone did something, or if we were down a couple goals.
Yeah.
Were you a talker?
Like the spark.
No, I wasn't much of a talker.
You would just go be quiet and just go punch?
Yeah, and go punch.
Yeah.
Baseball player.
Flailing around and punching.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
The baseball player.
Yeah. So, toughest guy you fought besides Probert?
Great question.
Dave Brown.
Okay.
Dave Brown. Yeah, he was.
What made him tough?
He was big and he was mean. He was 6'5", I think.
Wow.
Yeah, and without skates.
How heavy?
I think 235.
Jeez.
But he had the long reach.
Right.
And early in my career, he just locked that arm out and he couldn't get at him. And he was a lefty, so
Wow.
He hit me. I didn't go down or anything, but I remember it was in Philly, and we're sitting in the penalty box after the fight, and the old Philly Spectrum used to sit up top. The benches were higher in the penalty box, and we're talking, and he had his hand in the ice bucket, and he said, "Ty, why do you keep wanting to fight me?" I said, "Brownie, I'm going to keep fighting you until I beat you."
I like it.
And then halfway back, on the bus, we used to bus back then to Philly from New York, and the guy I was sitting next to on the bus, I said, halfway back to New York, I said, "What was the score?"
Yeah, right.
So I think that's probably the only time I really remember people say, "You ever have a lot of concussions?" But I think that might have had something to do with it.
Right.
But that's the one I clearly remember.
So I'm a big believer that a fight can get a spark in a team. Did you notice that if you fought, maybe you guys are down a couple goals, maybe you've lost a few games in a row, having that spark carry over to the locker room? Because I feel like in advanced analytics and the way the NHL has gone, people don't agree with this, but there is something about a fight that can do something for a team.
It's a whole different game now, right? And it's a whole different era. But when I played, that definitely was a factor. And that's down a couple goals. The other team knew I was kind of coming. And
Right.
They knew I was going to try and start something, and that was to try and change momentum, and that's really what I used to try and do, and it worked a lot of the times. And the good thing about that, guys that played in my era, like the superstars, like Alex wasn't baseball, the guys in hockey, those guys actually appreciate it the most, and they would want to be on the ice next shift and try and score.
Right.
And so I did it with Messier in New York, Timo Solani in Winnipeg, and then Matt Sundin, the longest we played together. And Matt's would put his foot on the boards. He'd want to be on the next shift after I got in the fight.
So,
he knew that's why I did it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people know you for obviously the fighting, but I want to shed some light on what a great friend you have been to me, and what a great advisor and really mentor. And I'm going to get into the Mariano Rivera story later. But one
Teaser.
As a teaser, and we'll talk about LinkedIn later too. No, but Ty, what people don't know about you, Dan, I probably don't know this. I mean, he played for 17 years, okay? He's the only person that I've met that has been a rock star hockey player career for 17 years. Mm-hmm. He is a Hall of Fame type business person, Magic Johnson-like, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And he's a father of 3. And he has 2 beautiful girls. They just came to the Jennifer concert in Toronto. We had the time of our lives. But I want to talk about Max, who's 23 and is an awesome hockey player. How proud are you of all your children? But Max specifically, how does his game compare to yours?
Oh, it's obviously the one thing that we have in common is since he's been a kid, I haven't seen him take a shift off. And that's one thing I can say. I know I didn't take a shift off. And that's kind of was my DNA, and that's what Max says. But other than that, he's always been a skilled kid since he's been, this big. Yeah. And
I knew him when he was like 5.
Yeah, so he was always that type that he was always the best player on his team growing up as a kid. And when he got to junior, he went to 3 Memorial Cups.
Good kid. How would you describe him? Humble?
Yeah, he's a very humble kid. He likes to have fun and laughs and. But he loves to win.
Yeah.
And he's very competitive, which is great. And he's a type 1 diabetic, right? So, that's something that, if any of your listeners or watchers they understand. If you're a diabetic parent, you actually don't understand if you're not a diabetic parent.
Right.
And when you're in it, you have that bond with all the families who are diabetics. And he's the face of JDRF now, which is, a big platform for him to have a voice. And every city he was going to, when he was in Arizona, families are waiting for him after games. And, as a diabetic, it takes a lot out of you.
Right.
And now he's in Montreal, and obviously it's the history of the franchise, and it's iconic brand, and a lot more demand. So he he decided to actually do a book, and his book's coming out this year.
Oh, wow.
It's called No Days Off.
Nice.
It's kind of grown up as a diabetic, so
Nice.
I'm really proud of him, and he hasn't let me read it yet, so everybody else has read it but me, so
Okay.
I think there's some funny stories in there about me, obviously, but I can't tell you how cool it is to have your son play in the NHL, and I just kind of follow him around and watch him, and I take it all in, and I stay in the background, and I obviously support my 2 daughters and follow them around too, just like Alex, and what we got is our kids, and the legacy that we leave for them is something that they have to live with as being our kids, and I think all 3 of them. I feel very blessed every day.
As a dad now, I actually am a dad. 7 weeks, so yeah.
Congratulations.
Hey, listen, everything you said, I agree with.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So your son playing in Montreal from playing in Arizona, did you talk to him about the different pressures of having to play? Now, New York, there's pressures that exist because it's the Mecca and all that stuff, but I'd have to imagine playing in Canada is different than playing in America when you're talking about the NHL and those cities.
Well, the thing is since he's been a kid, right? He's been my son, and I was playing when he was playing.
He's been your son his whole life.
Yeah, but when he's a kid in Toronto, being my son is a little different, right? When you're a current player, and so I had kids young, so me going to watch him play when he was a young kid, the whole kind of rink is, they're watching him, but they're also around
watching
me.
you because you're still playing.
So that was a tough thing, but for him, he always actually enjoyed the spotlight, and he played on the best franchise in Canada, the London Knights, and he went to 3 Memorial Cups, and he was a leading scorer, and he was a captain. So he was, he was ready for the big show, and he started out in Arizona, and we don't pick where we start, but that's where he was drafted, and he doesn't like losing, and they didn't make the playoffs there, and it was tough on him. So getting to Montreal, and I think was kind of a breath of fresh air. And people say, "What's the difference?" Well, I can tell you the difference. Being in the West is a lot of travel.
Yeah.
Alex, Seattle compared to the Yankees is a big difference, right?
Right.
So being in Arizona to Montreal, he's in his bed majority of the nights after games. They don't go for 3 days at a time. They go for one game and they're right out after the game. So I think being a diabetic and being on the road for 2 weeks and being celiac, eating in hotels, and every hotel doesn't have gluten-free, right? And good food, and so I think being in the East has really helped him, and I don't think he'll ever play in the West again, and because people see what he can do. I think being in the East and the travel is a big thing.
Interesting. Didn't think about it that way. So buy all the Max Domi stock. Just buy it all.
Well, no, I just people ask me, why did he become leading scorer in Montreal when he got traded? Well, he does like the big stage. He's been my kid his whole life, and he always liked the pressure, and which is good. And the travel. I definitely think those are the 2 things.
Yeah.
So let me ask you. So I want to get back to your time in New York. One of the 3 teams you played for. You won the President Cup. You took your best buddy, Mario Lemieux, to Game 7. Unfortunately for you, he won. Now you're his best friend. But tell us a little bit about, A, your time in New York. Did you enjoy it? And B, tell us about playing with the captain, Mark Messier, who's a legend here.
Yeah, well, that's a great question, because I don't really talk about my days playing, but I can't tell you how much I enjoyed being a Ranger, being in New York, and as a Yankee, how the Ranger fans are the same. They're diehard. Like to this day, it's almost 30 years ago I played for the Rangers, and I run into people and they're like, Domi.
Yeah, right.
Right.
It's
It's hilarious. But the Ranger fans are diehard. But it was fun, And after the Probert fights, my life kind of changed in New York,
Right.
Like that. Those are the days when everybody used to go out, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Now it's changed, but we didn't have social media back then too, so
that's probably a good thing for both
and
you guys.
And I was single too, right?
Yeah.
So I was like the young guy, I was having a lot of fun,
Right?
And
right.
I had a pretty good lineup going at the time.
Yes.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
So
Humble brag.
I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun before I moved on and got married and stuff. But I, being from 19 to 22 in New York was probably the funnest times of my life.
Yeah, that's definitely a special time. You've talked about the right reasons to fight on the ice. So explain what's a right and what's the wrong reason to fight on the ice.
That's a good question.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
I-
It was actually someone wrote it for me.
For a person that doesn't like to fight, talk about fighting, all these fighting questions, but you know,
I mean, you have to.
You
You can't be like, I fought 333 times, no fighting questions.
Let's ignore him.
no, I know.
Like, I'm not a fighter, guys. I'm a lover.
Well, the reason not to fight, I would have to say, is when you're hurt. You know, and I did fight a lot when I was hurt. And that was just part of the DNA. And if I didn't play, I just felt that other teams were going to take advantage of my teammates, and that's just how I always felt. And that was the old school mentality, but I really believed it. And if I wasn't in the lineup, guys would target our best players to go at them, right?
Right.
So that's why I played over 1,000 games, right? People say, "How'd you play over 1,000 games the way you played?" Well, majority of them were hurt.
Right.
I played hurt, but that's just the way it was. And so, but when I had a bad arm, or a bad forearm, or bad wrist, or bad hand, those were tough times to get into fights. But I actually did do it, and it wasn't the smartest thing to do. But the older I got, the smarter I got, and I would have a bad hand, but I would just kind of like hold on and make it look good.
Right.
I wouldn't throw a punch and everybody would say, like, why aren't you punching in that fight? Well,
My hand's broken from the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ty, let's talk a little less about fighting. I want to talk a little bit about, people do not know this, but you were more than 2 or 3 times the fastest skater for the Maple Leafs, something people don't know. And you played the second most playoff games ever for a Maple Leaf player. My question to you is, it's interesting as I see your great career for 17 years, you were protecting the best players. And you're doing the same thing in life now. You're doing it with Mario Lemieux. Your best friend is Mark Wahlberg. He loves you. Every time I talk to him, he's like, how's Tie Domi? Why do you think you've been so successful equally, if not more successful, post-hockey, and what lessons can other athletes learn from you?
I think just staying consistent, and I've always been honest. Growing up as a kid, I was taught that way, to be honest. And I think coming to work every day and, giving your all and taking no days off when you're playing, and that was kind of my DNA, and trying to be the guy that kept everybody like a family. And actually, Mark Messier taught me that when I was at the Rangers, whether it was the trainers or the people working in the parking lot, or everybody's part of the family. And that was kind of the thing that I learned from Mess when I was a young kid in New York, and he was the best player, so how he treated everybody was very interesting. But the way the values, I lost my father when I was 21, but the values I learned from him too were, look everybody in the eye when you shake their hand, and he always say loyalty's a big thing, and I kind of, to this day, I still live by that, the respect and the loyalty part. And my closest friends are still my closest friends. And, after I think, I retired in 06, 07, and then, I got divorced, and then 08 happened.
Yeah, I want to get into that. Yeah.
And then, the
wall fell apart.
The walls were caving in, and I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. All these guys can take my money, or I help them raise money, and I really learned a lot after my career, which people kind of really don't know. But it was a moment where I was like, wow, I can't believe this is happening, and I can't believe these guys are like this, right? So sometimes what you give to people, you don't expect it back. Wow. And I learned that. And a friend of mine, which is a friend of yours, Mitch Goldhar.
Great guy.
He's a very close friend, and he said something to me in 08 that really registered, and to this day, and I try and tell my kids that. Mitch said this when I was in 08, when the walls were coming in. He said, Ty, all you got to do now is put your walls high and your head down, And that's kind of what I did. I put the walls up a lot higher than they were, and I always had them up during my career, but 08 really kind of opened it up, and I was kind of shocked at what was happening. I thought, oh my God, my life's coming to an end here.
Right.
So I wasn't relying on anybody to help me. I wasn't saying, oh, this is what I was, a hockey player, and you owe me this or you owe me this. I didn't expect that. I just went out and did it. And I think just being consistent, being honest, I think really helps in life in general.
So you talk about 08. You wrote in your book about the financial collapse and having an eviction notice on your door. And I thought that was interesting what you just said about loyalty and what you give people you might not get in return. Have you found since that moment and, coming back in a business sense, in just a personal sense, being a little more skeptical of people and maybe not giving loyalty right away, or just knowing that, hey, even if I'm loyal to this guy, he might not return it. He might screw me over somewhere down the line.
Right. And, I'm not Alex, right? But in Canada, when you're a hockey player, everybody wants a piece of you. And pretty well-known name in Canada and face. And I was always that type of guy that gave everybody the time of day. But now, in where I am in the state of my life right now, I really don't need any new friends. And my friends are my friends. And, obviously there's business associates and relationships that you have. But I keep that, line in the sand, and I actually just try and live my life and learn from the mistakes I've made, and I'm still going to make mistakes.
Right.
We're all going to make mistakes, but you definitely learn, and 08 was a time. And I by the way, in my book, I didn't make it a big deal in my book because I didn't want to give those guys a time of day that actually screwed me over.
Right.
Because those are the guys that kind of wanted to bury me, and that's why I do commercials in Canada, just so they can see my face every day.
That's awesome.
You didn't bury me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's, people ask me, why do I do commercial? In my last 10 years, I was pretty popular, right? So I never did commercials my last 10 years of my career because I didn't want to be more popular. Because when you're too popular, people get jealous,
Right.
And that's just the way, the fact
Yeah,
of
the
life.
pendulum swings too high.
Yeah,
and
and so that's why I try and tell my son, just keep it here, don't.
So Dan, I want to tell you about what an impact Ty had in our 2009 World Championship. So 2009.
This is a Mariano Rivera story that we teased.
Yeah, so 2009, I have surgery, hip surgery. I go to Aspen. I go to our friend's house, Jeff, who's kind enough to give us his house. This guy would call me every day, email me, text me. And then that led to Mariano Rivera coming over when we played the Blue Jays to your house to 3 in the morning. You can talk a little bit about that. But the interesting part about that is we had a big A-Rod party, they called it. My 34th birthday in 2009, July 27th. Now, the entire team's over there, front office, Jay-Z and Beyonce, and name drop. And then around midnight, now this is a Saturday, we have a 1 o'clock game the next day. Someone jumps in the pool, then I jump in the pool, then Girardi jumps in the pool, the manager. Now, I'm talking about 100 people inside the pool. Now, there's 2 people dry in the entire party. One is Jay-Z, and the other one's Tie Domi, who's protecting Jay-Z. Jay-Z kept saying, I thought he was like Macy or something. He was like, hey, Ty, don't let anybody get near you. He goes, trust me, nobody won't. And nobody did.
That's awesome.
And every time guys would come around, they would start try to sneak up,
to push him in the pool.
Jay-Z would come over and put his arm around me and had a cigar in his mouth. He'd go,
yeah, right.
It was like
every time I see Jay-Z, he's, how's my boy Tie Domi?
That's awesome. Now, was that a moment where the team came together and it was a defining moment in the season, winning a World Series?
I think so. I want to hear what Ty you have to say. For me, it was the moment that it all came together. Because the one thing that Ty kept kind of coaching me on, and Mo, was like, you guys got to stick together. No matter what people say in the outside, nobody can mess with the brotherhood of the 25 players. And I think that was the kind of the pivot in our career. What do you think, Ty?
Well, that was an interesting moment, and being Alex's friend, and he said, "So, what? Just help me out." And certain things, I just kind of knew that he didn't know, and not because he didn't want to. Just I don't think anybody, because he was Alex Rodriguez, and he's been the best player since he's been 18 years old. There's not guys that are gonna say, "Hey, Alex, this is how you have to do it."
Right.
He's the best player, so he's never really had a teammate.
The Mark Messier, like you were saying.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And I think when the time came to really get close to Alex, he's like he is now, and him now.
Right.
People that don't know him, they don't really know him, and he's had his walls up way before me, right? I've had my walls up now, but he's always had that wall up and that guard up, which everybody always want a piece of him. So at that birthday party, I just saw how he was to all of his teammates, and he gave everybody the time of day, whether it was the trainers, the manager, the guy who's not the best in the roster, but he's giving those people attention. And I think everybody got to see, he jumped in the pool, and everybody, and the whole team's in the pool, except me and Jay-Z.
Right.
But, and they got on a roll after that. Like they were you couldn't beat them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they came to Toronto, and when they came to Toronto, we'd always have dinner, and he brought Mo one time, and Mo, I don't know if you know Mariano at all, but Alex left. Alex was tired. He left, and Mo stayed there, and he was dead serious. And he's like, Ty, I really need your help. If you keep this guy focused, we can win a championship.
Right.
And he's like dead serious. And he was at my place till like 3 a.m. No joke.
Yeah.
And he just went in the Hall of Fame. I'm like, that's all I thought about is him sitting
3
there
in the morning,
saying, Ty, I need your help with Alex.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it was kind of a touching thing, and I'll always remember that. And I'm glad Alex remembered that. But it was a touching moment being there with Mo, him and I sitting there talking, and it was almost like a full-time job. I wasn't doing anything in my life at the time.
Right.
And I was like writing him notes and, keeping him, and he would always respond, bang, right away. He was like rapid fire like me, texting me.
Dan, I almost felt that when we got the 25 players, I felt like you were the 26th and you deserved the ring because you did so much work behind the scenes, consulting with us, helping us, and Mariano leaning on you and saying, I can't get anyone to get this moron to focus talking about me, but I found someone. He's north of the border, baby. He's Tie Domi.
Ty Domi was the secret sauce to the Arod now is clutch.
Right,
there it is.
But
you are the clutch
honestly, and he was the best player. And come the World Series, and they're always saying he couldn't deliver, and he was the MVP, and it was a very proud moment. And when he's winning and he's celebrating, he's texting me from the dressing room, and that was very touching. So, he does have a huge heart, and we'll have that bond forever. And that was, he sent me pictures from the dressing room when they had the champagne going and everything. That was that meant the world to me, and him talking about this kind of makes me emotional because that's very nice.
Yeah, that is awesome. And I think the biggest thing I've taken away from this, and you can agree, disagree, but the camaraderie of a team and taking that to the business world where you have your guys and being loyal to them and always having their back is important. Doesn't mean you shouldn't have your walls up. Like you said, you need to have your walls up. Mm-hmm. But having that team spirit, Mark Messier, you passing it on to Arod, where like, hey, we're in the trenches together, and it could be a team, a sports team, or it could be a Fortune 500 company. Having that instilled in everyone where everyone's pulling on the same side of the rope and like, let's do this together is invaluable.
Well, and the things that he was going through in his career, I think, and how he handled it, and him going to these places because he is the best player in the league, and being booed when he's up to bat. I don't really understand if people understand how difficult that is.
Right.
I had to do it on the ice. I got booed everywhere else but at home on the ice because I was a tough guy. And I was, that guy. But him, he's got to be up there focused, and hitting that little ball like that. The mental strength that he has, and how he's doing in life after hockey and after baseball is just. It kind of blows my mind how I'm proud of him. And, it's
thank you, brother.
It's kind of what he's gone through in life. I think he's learned from a lot, and now I've see him with Jennifer and how happy he is, and how he treated my daughters in Toronto when she played when she came to Toronto. It was just amazing, and she spent time with my daughters after, and just what a fascinating woman she is. And, how she was with my daughters and the impact she made, and that was all because of Alex. So that those type of things go a long way with me, because when you do things for your kids, someone does things for your kids.
Yeah.
And that night, what he did, my daughters love him. They always loved him, and my son. But Jennifer really impacted my daughters, and that was pretty cool to see.
That is cool. All right.
Remember, my daughters, they've met Justin Bieber when Justin Bieber, Justin Timberlake.
Yes.
They met Britney when they were young. Because of kind of who I was in Toronto, so they were able to meet them after.
Right, but this meant something. Yeah.
This is like they're older now. Like God forbid if you even get a text back. What answers? But after this with Jennifer in Toronto and with Alex, I think they got a whole new respect for me. So that was very nice. And what Alex said to my daughters, they kind of tell people what Alex said, what he just told you on the show, which, he's a great guy and great friend.
Yeah. All right. So my last question for you: do you think I'm going to get invited to the bachelor party? Because you're going to get invited. It sounds like. So are you going to get me there?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if Jennifer's going to allow that.
Come on.
No, I don't know if she's going to allow a
What if
bachelor
I'm-
party.
Oh,
It might be guys and girls.
Okay. What if I tell?
Those days are long gone.
What if I
Those
tell
bachelor
Jennifer I'm the mole? We'll do a bachelor party. I get to go, and I'll just snitch on you guys. Your walls aren't that high up.
Well, I got times have changed. It's a new world now, as you know.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, Ty, thank you so much. This was awesome. Appreciate it. You can still, your book was a bestseller. Go read it.
5 weeks in a row.
Yeah. It was 5
Yes,
weeks in a row?
yes.
Yeah, in Canada.
Sheesh.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my sons. Don't forget about my sons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's coming out. No days off. And
Yes.
If you have diabetic children, I say it's worth reading it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ty.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, guys.